Could AI help you do more of what you love? Workday is the AI platform for HR and finance that actually knows your business. We help you handle the have-to-dos so you can focus on the can't-wait-to-dos. It's a new Workday.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're gonna crack this case and prove we're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
You are... Gary the Snake. And your last name? The Snake.
Dream team.
And new habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home.
You're clearly working at.
Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG.
Hey there, we're BookTok for BookTok with Jac and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
And together we mix smart analysis with fandom fun. So let's get into it.
This is our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks episode where we read your thoughts and interpretations, as well as discuss breadcrumbs from chapters 31 through 37 of Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Silver Flames.
Before we dive in, don't forget about Spilt. Spoilers, perspective, interpretation, language, themes. We are serious about spoilers. Everything SJM, universe, and other interviews are on the table.
If you would like more information, please go back and listen to the start of yesterday's episode. And if you'd like to submit your thoughts for our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks episodes in the future, make sure to follow us on Instagram where we collect listener submissions.
It's been a couple days since we recorded the episode.
Yeah. Do I even remember what we said?
No. I feel weird. Does this feel weird?
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay, let's start. So in chapter 31, Cassian is telling Nesta about the difficulty for High Fae to give birth to half Illyrian children with wings. Quote, the labor is so brutal that many of them either come close to death or are so altered by it they can never have another child. Foreshadowing that this is exactly what Farah will have to endure, at least the death part.
Still in chapter 31, when Nesta and Cassian are flirting and Nesta is promising Cassian sex, she says, quote, I don't think the house would appreciate such filthy behavior, even if it's a romance reader as well. Cassian says, what? While he is distracted with sex, and we're supposed to gloss over this in the moment, his confusion is supposed to signal how the house's identity as a romance reader is unprecedented and unknown.
What kind of genre do you think your apartment is?
Something boring. Probably memoirs.
You're not wrong. I think mine is like a high fantasy that just like kind of shakes its head at my fantasy. Okay, still in the same chapter, when Nesta goes to scry at the river house after learning about the threat to Farah's life, Nesta promises Rhys, quote, I will not say a word to Farah, she swore. She didn't do it for any particular kindness, but to wipe that cautious look from Rhys's eyes before it grated further. Rhys only said, his voice wary, thank you. She's about to break that vow real hard.
When Nesta scries, the longer she does, quote, still the air grew colder. I saw a Instagram reel theorizing that every time scrying or anything magic related that is about getting colder, it's a lot like Bryce summoning the princes of hell.
So true. So true. I love that. When Rhys tries to help Nesta break her mental hold on her when she is scrying, he calls the walls around her mind a fortress of solid iron. Iron like the cauldron or iron teeth witches. To me, SJM associates her with iron so much that you cannot tell me that she is not an iron teeth witch, like descendant of some. You know what I mean? Like at that point, you've just been like a tease. If that's not true, SJM.
Still in chapter 31, we gloss over this conversation with Rhys and Cassian that I wonder whether there is significance we haven't figured out yet. This is after Cassian helps Nesta be released from the scrying. Rhys says, quote, what the hell did you do to pull her out of that? Rhys asked. Cassian didn't really know. The only thing I could think of, you warmed the entire room. I didn't mean to. I just thought that was weird.
Yeah. At first I was like, because he's so horny? Because he was like trying to like, you know, be like, Nesta, let's go play later. But like that wasn't it.
That's not normal though.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Just pointed that out in case it becomes significant in the future.
Amren talks to the Bog of Orid and gives the lore, quote, They say the water there flows under the mountain, and the creatures who live in the bog have long used its underground waterways to travel through the middle, even into the mountains of the surrounding courts. The fuck do I know what this might be? That's funny, this is my quote. And then Amy has a quote. Note, not quote.
A note. Underground waterways also doubling as burial places sounds a lot like the burial place of the Yvelin Phase Royal Line, which is where Rune found the Star Sword / Briscoes in Flame and Shadow.
In the same chapter, Rhys explains that the middle is sacred ground that cannot be mapped. Quote, "It's forbidden to map the middle beyond vague landmarks." He pointed to the sacred mountains in the center, where he'd been held for nearly 50 years. The mountain, the woods, the bog, all can be seen from land and air, but its secrets, those discovered on foot, those are forbidden. Who said it's sacred forbidden? The Asteri, Valg, Daglin, because they are hiding something? I bet it matters in the future ACOTAR books. It probably will. I mean, that's where also the Weaver was hanging out and lived. Although it wasn't in a bog, it was in a forested area.
Right. Moving on to chapter 32. There are so many things that remind me of the Asteri / Valg in this chapter that I listed a bunch. When Nesta and the boys, as in Cassian, get to the middle, the environment description is, quote, "The air was heavy, full of slow-running water and mold and loamy earth." Later, quote, "Even the cauldron's water hadn't been as solidly black as the water here, as if it were made of ink." Another one, quote, "The bog of Orid was by far the worst. Its very essence spoke of death and decay." And all of those sound like Valg / Asteri clues to me.
Cassian tells Nesta about the Kelpies. Quote, "They were shapeshifters who dwelled in the lakes and rivers and lured unwitting people into their arms. And after they drowned them, they feasted." Never mind that Nesta's about to see one, but this sounds a lot like Sobex from Crescent City, but maybe not since they're more humanoid. Although, from what I remembered, I thought it was kind of confirmed or something that the Asteri altered one and the other. So I think the Kelpie came first, and then they altered them to create the Sobex.
I think that's right. I couldn't find the evidence of it. I couldn't remember, but yes, I agree. All right. Still in chapter 32, sound is muffled when Nesta and the men are at the bog of Orid. Quote, "Orid would abide no sound disturbing its ancient slumber." What if Orid is a slumbering Valg or Asteri under the mountain? Also, just as an FYI, Low Orid is a real place in County Galway, Ireland. The name is of Irish origin, sometimes spelled in different ways, and translates to moist land.
Ew.
So Orid could just be about the fact that it's a bog. Who knows?
So is low moist?
Yeah, I think so. I wonder if it's like Loch in Scotland, which is for lakes and stuff.
Cassian talks about the non-human witches that might live in the middle. Quote, "The kind that used to be something else, and then their thirst for magic and power turned them into wretched creatures, banished here by various high lords. They don't sound so bad. They drink young blood to fill the coldness of the magic left in them. Iron Teeth clan witches. What came first, the Iron Teeth then here, or here then the Iron Teeth? I don't know. The timeline is so fucked to me."
Yeah. Agreed. Talking about the creatures in the middle, quote, "The middle keeps them separate from us without punishing them for what they were made to be." Made? Made by whom? Maybe like how the Asteri made Malachim and other creatures in Crescent City.
Bless the people who just go so deep and hard into the lore and they know all of it. I respect you. We were talking about this with someone and they're like, "So you must know a lot." And we're like, "We can tell you the metaphors, couldn't tell you the lore." Describing the northern part of the bog, quote, "It was so thick that Cassian rose higher, not wanting to impale them on a tall tree. The mist was chill enough to run icy fingers down his wings, his face." Mist indicates a space between worlds that is thin, often, and is the bog of Orid one of them? I can see that. I can totally see that.
In chapter 34, the Autumn Court men sound a lot like Belias did earlier in the novel. But these two seemed as unfocused and blank as their comrades. Cassian sniffed. "They smell like they haven't had a bath in weeks." As says, Eris told them that his men had, quote, "been acting strange before they vanished. I'd certainly consider this strange behavior." And as the inner circle eventually deduces, it's because they're being controlled by the Crown and Briallen, but they don't connect it back to Bellius.
Yeah. I think Bellius also wasn't showering, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
So I think
Nesta tells him to take a bath.
Yeah. Next time there's ever a moment of like, oh shit, I don't think I showered in a couple days. It's like,
I'm being possessed.
Be better than Bellius. In chapter 36, when Cassian and Azrael see the army of the dead that Nesta rises with the mask, Cassian thinks that, quote, judging by the fine armor, they were warriors and kings and princes and lords. Just another reminder that this burial place is a lot like the one at the home of the Avalon Fae in Crescent City.
The description of the mask is, quote, a golden mask sat upon her face, primitive but embossed with whorls and patterns so ancient they'd lost all meaning. Word marks?
Yeah, SJM's brain, I can't with her. Chapter 37. In the torture chamber under the Moon Palace, we learned that, quote, these went through the hatch in the center of the circular room, went into the pit of writhing beasts below, to their scales and claws and merciless hunger. So the Moon Palace is where they're at. That's like the forward-facing palace. I was just reminding myself what the hell the Moon Palace was, and that we're in the torture scene. And underneath is part of the prison? No, that's not right. Oh, that's where Nesta goes.
That's where Bryce winnows into. It's filled with basically Sobex.
Yep,
or something like Sobex at the beginning of Flame and Shadow.
All right, thank you for reminding us all.
You're welcome. When Rhys shares with Amren Nesta's memory of the Kelpie, Amren says, quote, that is a dialect of our tongue that has not been spoken in 15,000 years. That's because it's the same ancient Fae language that Bryce speaks.
Which is probably the same language that Aelin and Rowan and everyone speaks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like 15,000 years we know is like the same time that there was a move from Aelin Throne of Glass World to. Mm-hmm. That was when the Great Moving was 15,000 years ago.
Yep.
You cannot set up this hard and not bring in Aelin and co into this next series. Oh my god, like I don't want October to be here. That's too far away. I don't want it to go that quickly. I want the book now. I don't want October now.
Okay, I was like, where are you going with this?
Yeah, I would like it now, please.
Talking about the Kelpie, Amren says they were made, legend says, by the hand of a cruel god and deposited throughout the waters of this land, aka Asteri / Valk.
Asteri. Okay, so I'm going to read you guys what we asked you.
The listeners.
Yeah, y'all the listeners. But we're going to take a sit. Amy's going to take a sit first. I just did. And it's so far away. I'm on my period and it's like the day that of heavy period. But it's like that day when you're just like, I can't lift my hands to go drink water. That's too much from me.
It's too much effort.
Yeah.
The spring court's giving me sniffles. We'll be right back.
Struggling to find the right metabolic wellness support, even when you're doing everything right, has been one of the most frustrating things for me in my health journey.
I've tried other metabolic wellness support providers, and I often feel rejected rather than supported by the process.
That's because Brello is focused on long-term health, longevity, and performance, not quick fixes.
Brello is designed for people who want a more sustainable approach to their metabolic wellness support. Their support helps you focus on habits, education, and structure alongside provider oversight.
Getting my GLP-1 through Brello has been so easy. They make it so effortless, and they provide all the support I need through their app.
Their app is one of a kind in my book because it allows you to track progress, manage reminders, and stay on top of renewals. And if you're like me, managing the renewals is the hardest part.
Everything is managed online, making it easier to stay consistent over time, and medications are delivered to your door. They're so transparent with their pricing with one flat monthly cost. Go to BrelloHealth.com to see if you qualify and explore their GLP-1 plans, starting at $133 per month for your first 3 months, plus access to their app, community, and wellness classes. That's BRELLO health.com.
Any information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional medical consultation, diagnosis, or treatment. All patients must consult with a healthcare provider prior to the prescription or dispensing of any medication, which will be done only pursuant to a valid prescription. Compounded drug products are not FDA approved, and the FDA does not evaluate their safety, effectiveness, or quality. Patients are encouraged to discuss the risks, benefits, and appropriateness of any medications, including compounded products, with their healthcare provider before use.
Okay, so the question we asked you all is, after SJM's interview and her talking about smut and how she uses it in her writing, how does that change the way you view the spicy scenes between Nesta and Cassian? I will read some of these rapid responses. There's some DMs. So, Amy.
The one from Nikki? Okay, got it. I think the scenes are so fun and explorative, but when I really think about it, I think we can see not only their relationship change, but the characters themselves. In the other books, the sex definitely had underlying roles, but it was about lust and trauma for Tamlin and Feyre, and love and family for Rhys and Feyre. For Nesta, she's using sex to maintain control over herself, to deny her feelings for Cassian, and punish herself. She doesn't feel worthy of his love or self-love, so she uses the same tactics with Cassian that she used in Frost and Starlight. It's not until she starts to heal with her friends and the training that she's able to view sex as more than an escape. By chapter 37, Nesta knows she wants more with Cassian, but still, she can't admit it, more than wishing he'd stayed for, quote, some cuddling. In chapter 58, Nesta acknowledges her own feelings about her self-worth to Cassian and mends her relationships with her sisters. That sex scene is the most emotionally intimate, but it's also the shortest.
It's funny, I have to remind myself that no one's listened to the season yet. Episode 1 just came out. I'm not disagreeing with her. I'm more of like, well, what about the points that we made? And I'm like, oh, you don't know. You don't know. Yeah, I mean, we do talk about her being Nesta, that this is like a reward-based system, you know, that she gets to have Cassian. But because of the reward-based system, it almost seems more intimate, because every time she's like views him as a reward, she's trying to be better. She's trying to get closer to him. So it's like, I agree. The approach that we've taken with this rewards-based system is that it's this need to be better. And I feel like that makes it very intimate in a way that's specific to them.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So I'm going to read a couple. One, this is from Snicky. Short answer. More details, less intimacy. Less details, more intimacy. Long answer in your DM. Okay, we might get that later. How do we feel about that? And we've said this before in past seasons. Actually, yeah, so no, guys. Okay, so yes and no. So we talked about that with Feyre and Tamlin, the intimacy scenes were really short and quick, or the sex scenes, and you could tell that there was a lack of emotional intimacy. By the time that Feyre and Rhys were having these much more grand, detailed, soup-eating, painting scenes, that was like the most emotionally intimate that they'd become. We get more detailed sex scene at the end when they're like, "Mame," that's the least detailed from what it sounds like. But the fact that they're just now having sex in this episode, they've reached a new level of emotional intimacy, and it's the most like graphic, longest, detailed sex scene that we've had from them.
Talking about Cassian and Nesta.
Nesta, I think that the detail shows a level of intimacy.
Yeah, I think that this is different from Rhys and Feyre because they didn't have sex, like penetrative sex, until they established their feelings, right? And accepted the mating bond. And so there was a lot of different interactions leading up to it that replace what Nesta and Cassian have, which is sex. So yeah, I agree. I think the sex is more detailed in Silver Flames because of the need to establish emotional intimacy that Nesta's not capable of establishing through words now.
I think because, one, no one's listened to the episodes, so there's that. Two, when we read this, we're reading as Nesta saying just sex. What we're reading is Cassian being like, I'm going to fuck you everywhere in the house. So long as I get to fuck you somewhere, okay, but I get to... That actually made me chuckle of like, I'm going to fuck you now, only if I get to fuck you later. And it's like, oh my God, you're just trying to like, be like, so there'll be a second time?
Yeah.
Situation. But I think it's because we're busy listening to what they're saying and not listening to what they're not saying. Like, they're an unreliable narrator, both of them, Nesta and Cassian. They're both trying to be surface level when it comes to the sex, but when you start looking deeper, you can see that there's a lot more emotional intimacy, even in these like super graphic, detailed sex scenes.
Yeah. And maybe there's less detail later in the book because the intimacy has now been established. And we now understand the language that they're speaking, which
Ooh.
right now SJM is teaching us their language.
Oh, wow.
I just pulled that out of my ass,
Wow.
but I think I'm right.
I think so too. Good job.
Thank you.
Do we call it, are we done now? That's
No,
all
we
right.
have more things to read.
Okay, let me do a couple more rapid fires before we
Yeah.
go to the next DM. Siri says, I would have loved to see the threesome with Azriel. I agree.
Oh,
Hopefully the day that SJM leaves Bloomberry is the day we get more threesomes, or we actually get to see them. Miss Northcutt, love you. She says, nope, they always felt a mode of healing for her. Agreed. And then Nadine says, I still don't get how people didn't get that sex was the catalyst for them from the start. It's their language.
It is their language. Hannah says, I think as you go through the story, you see how they both physically and emotionally open up more and become closer. And even how at first they are both resistant for different reasons, but even still, they find escape and release with one another. Once Nesta lets everything out on that hike, she lets Cassian in more and changes. But we still see one last resistance from her, which is honestly so brutally realistic for a lot of, if not all, people in those situations. But even her last resistance is different than before. Before her hike, it was about how she saw herself as bad and unworthy, whereas her last one is about holding on to her humanity. I honestly am convinced that even though we see the mating bond after Solstice, Nesta opened that bridge and it was truly coming alive for her then as she rejected it, though that hardly worked before then. I think each scene we actually see has purpose towards seeing how Nesta evolves from holding herself back. Yeah. There's always talk about restraint and lack of restraint or letting go of restraint in the sex scenes, that it is about Nesta learning to stop restraining herself in the ways that she thinks she needs to, and learning that her restraint doesn't make her a better person or a worse person. Her restraint just stops her from being happy.
Yeah. It's funny. In every other book, in every other season, I have made the exact same joke of Dick cannot heal. Except for maybe this one.
maybe
this one.
Maybe the right dick can heal.
You know what? Another mic drop truth from Amy today. The right dick can heal. Shall I change that to my Hinge profile?
Maybe you get it tattooed on your body.
Not going to go that hard. The right dick can heal. All right. SD says, it still doesn't change it since I listen to your podcast and know what to look out for. That's right. Thank you. Graza says, it only makes me love them more. Agreed. Ashley, that's what her handle is. I've always accepted spice. Part of being human. Shrug emoji. Glad SJM agrees. It's so natural. It's so part of life. I was thinking about this as I was showering this morning, that boobs are only interesting because men have decided that, like, we cannot see them. It's just like ankles, right? Ankles were only as risque as we decided them to be.
Right. And they were only as much of a turn on as we banned them from visibility.
And we being men.
Right.
The only reason why we're like, ooh, don't show cleavage or anything like that is because of men. Because it's desirable to them, therefore it is.
Yeah. And they can't control their urges, therefore we must cover ourselves.
Can I go on a mini rant here? Here's the thing with men. And this is why we recently discovered having a 98% female audience is kind of rare. And we did not know that until recently. But this is exactly why we have it. So the thing with men is that they are either not the ones that listen to us. You guys are perfect. Shout out to you. There's two types of men. One is the one that they are so consumed with like women and their desire that they blame women. And therefore they're like, banish women because I can't handle my own desire. The other category of men is that women basically remind them that they like men. And I don't think that it's the case that like thinking I'm gay, but it's about the fact that a lot of like, you know, modern performative male acts, like going to the gym, being muscular, it's for other men. The way that they lust after these Megan Fox, although Megan Fox is a goddess, but like the way that they try to show off their women, it's for other men. So it's like you either have the like, you're so sexy, I can't handle it, I'm going to shut you out, or everything I do is for the performative nature for other men, and therefore we need to shut you out because I don't want anything to do with you. I actually just want men.
Yeah. Everything is an accessory to elevate status and show off to other men so that they envy me or love me or want to be near me or whatever the case is.
And this, what I'm about to say, I took it from another TikTok. This is not my original thought. But basically, one day, a man, we're building public restrooms, and said, okay, women, 2 walls and a door. Next to it will be 2 walls and a door. Then they go into the men's restroom and they go 2 walls and a door. Okay, 2 walls and another door. And then they go, all right, let's do urinals. And then someone said, so we're going to put in a wall. And then someone else said, hey, what if we don't put in a wall? What if we don't have doors? What if we just let urinals be open for other men? And that was a choice. And that was a fucking choice. So when in doubt, if you ever wonder why is it that like there is such a like subvert desire for men before other men, just remember, someone made the choice that urinals, they don't have to be super covered up.
They're obsessed with seeing each other's penises and comparing.
Dick can heal. Remember that. And if they were to
The
just
right
allow
one.
that, the right dick,
one.
the right dick can heal. And if they just let that open for themselves. I'm going to read 3 more, and Amy's going to read the next one. Alexi says, no change. I always felt their spice scenes had depth of emotion. Agreed. Lasha says, nope. I always saw them and their sex scene as advancing the plot. I agree. I think the plot is always, especially since we've discussed there early on, is that the plot is their character development. Like that is this book. You're not going to get plot in the sense of like, I don't know, like other types of plot. So yes, absolutely. And then Sid Nidian says, seeing how they have sex is natural for them. It's part of their journey. All right. Amy's going to read another DM.
Nothing different, just shows how their time together is what they need emotionally and physically. They balance each other well, but complement in the bedroom. LOL. They do. Oh, in response to our SGM interview episodes last week, Vanya asks, in your SJM podcast part 2, when speaking about female mates, what do you think about Fury and Juniper? Which I'm sad that we didn't remember that in the moment, because we were talking about basically homosexual mates, right? Queer mates. And do they exist? So they do exist in Throne of Glass. We have Emrys and his mate in Air of Fire.
Oh, right.
And potentially they exist in Crescent City if Fury and Juniper are mates. We don't know.
Also, mates in Crescent City is the only one that's different in the sense that it's not like a biological compelling necessarily.
Probably because the Asteri fucked their biology too hard.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that was sad.
So yes, we've seen it in Throne of Glass. So in theory, queer mates is possible, but knowing that Crescent City mates work differently than Throne of Glass or ACOTAR, it stands to reason that ACOTAR mates could also work differently from Throne of Glass mates. So we don't know if there will be any queer mates within Prythian.
Yep. Agreed.
And that will be something SGM will have to figure out.
Heidi says, I've always said sex is a connection between them. She wasn't able to offer anything else. It's true. Emlet says, it was for the plot. There was clapping in between. Thank you. Steph Nicole says, not at all. I always saw them as plot points. Liam said, oh, girl, I haven't seen the interview and now I need to. Yeah.
Yeah. Where have you been?
I know. We interrupt our own genius for a quick message. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV.
When I think of spring break, I think of Jack and I senior year Las Vegas. You know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but what doesn't stay in Vegas is the hydration our body needs no matter what.
If there's anything that I needed from that trip, it's Liquid IV. And now that I'm older, I really need Liquid IV after going out. I drink Liquid IV's sugar-free hydration multiplier all the time. I'm not even exaggerating.
Liquid IV's hydration multiplier hydrates me better than water alone.
If you're going to Coachella or any music festival, this is the perfect thing to put in your purse because only one stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates faster than water alone. It's powered by LIV, Hydroscience, and an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration.
Compared to water, Liquid IV delivers longer lasting hydration and retains hydration for up to 4 hours. It's backed by a scientific advisory board with world-renowned researchers to conduct clinical research trials.
And for our vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free girlies, this is perfect for you.
It's always non-GMO and has delicious sugar-free options like mandarin orange, rainbow sherbet, my favorite, mango pineapple, and more.
Soak up unforgettable memories with on-the-go hydration from Liquid IV. Tear pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first purchase with code BookTok at checkout.
That's 20% off your first purchase with code BookTalk, BookTalk, at liquidiv.com. All right, Virginia sent us a DM, and I'm going to read it. Hello. First, I want to say that I love the podcast, and y'all make me laugh in every episode. Oh, thank you, because sometimes I'm like, we weren't that funny.
I know.
I'm looking forward to the Silver Flame season starting on the 17th. I have a calendar alert. I love that.
Oh, that's so sweet.
In anticipation for the season starting, I'm re-listening to the book, and I'm currently at the part where Rhys told Cassian about the baby having wings, and now Cassian is explaining the danger to Nesta. Perfect timing.
I know.
It got me thinking about how the bone carver showed Feyre their son, but without wings, and how everyone is speculating if it was actually her son she saw or what the bone carver was really showing her. I'm sure I'm not the first to think this, but I don't remember hearing about it. But what if he was showing Feyre their second son? Kind of like a, hey, that's your mate and you're going to have kids, but the first one will be scary and don't worry, you'll survive and just be fine. I don't think it's far-fetched that he would be trying to help and reassure her in his own way, given that we have seen him have a sort of affection for her in his other actions. And while we're at it, he may have been trying to tell Rhys that Jurian was and would be an ally in the war by appearing to him as Jurian. Wish we knew who or what Cassian saw the bone carver as, so we could see if the trend continues. Anyway, these are just my thoughts as I'm listening. I've been trying to remember to kind of analyze as I'm listening so I can compare my thoughts to yours when the season finally airs. But it's my favorite SJM book, and I just got lost in it. LOL. Like I said, love the podcast, ladies, and I look forward to the rest of the Throne of Glass seasons.
Thanks, Virginia.
Thanks, Virginia.
I agree that there's just something so questionable about how the bone carver showed himself to Feyre. Now there's two camps to this. Some people think that it's like, yeah, but the bone carver just didn't know that the baby would have wings. Same baby with wings, whatever, right? And then there's others that are just like, maybe not. Maybe that there was something else you were showing. And if there's anything that I've learned is trust nothing with SJM.
Ooh. What if it was like Rune as a kid?
Oh.
I don't know, because I'm just thinking out loud, because I've been seeing so many universe theories since the SJM Call Her Daddy interview that I'm like, who knows? Like, why does Rune look exactly like Rhys?
Yeah. I saw someone do they call it crack theories, and I feel weird about calling it crack ships or crack theories because this is an epidemic, guys. Drugs are an epidemic. So I feel weird about calling it that. Anyway, someone goes, okay, we'll call it out of pocket, right? This is their out of pocket theory. And it's basically there's a lot of people who think that Rhys's sister's alive.
I've seen a lot of that.
What if Rhys's sister somehow made it to Crescent City and is actually Rune's mom?
I've seen that theory, yep.
And it's one, I love a wild theory. Two, there's absolutely zero evidence that I think that shows that. Three, I think that she needs to stay dead in order to keep Rhys's lore. Or no, I mean, the trauma. I mean, it's she doesn't kill anyone, so might as well keep the ones in the past dead.
Yeah, and, it's also part of Tamlin's lore. It would be too easy to absolve Tamlin if the sister is still alive or mom is still alive, right?
So true. Or if he, spared just one type thing.
Right.
I agree. And we saw the heads.
Yeah. Well, Reese saw the heads in theory.
Yeah.
Another theory I saw relates to the bone carver. I forget which Throne of Glass book it is, but it's later in the series. Kale mentions that the god of truth, the temple is littered with carved bones, but nobody's seen that god for a long time. Like, where'd the little sucker go?
Yeah.
And what does Reese tell Feyre the first time she goes see the bone carver? Don't lie to him and give him a bone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he
Give
could
a
have
dog a
been a
bone.
world walker as well.
I'm just going to power read the rest of these, and then we have some random obscure ones we never got to. So sorry, guys. Just affirmed what I had originally thought. Spice is integral to development of Nesta and Cassian. I'm glad she mentioned this because it truly is a part of their story. Anrin says it doesn't. I've always known it was part of it. And let's see. Sierra says, no, I always felt like the important character development was happening during the scenes. Everyone agrees. Everyone agrees. We're all basically, what this tells me is that the only people who shamed this book for being just smutty and not getting it are the people
who didn't read it.
Yeah, genuinely. Yeah. And I feel like if someone like read this and didn't sense some emotional connection, and I don't want to shame some reader that might be like, I had no idea, like I thought this was just smut. So I'm not saying this about you. I'm saying this about the generic person that read it and might have been like, pissy about it being just smutty.
Yeah.
I think that speaks more to their connection on sex.
Yeah.
And their experience.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. I think that people who see smut as smut and not a place in a book where intimacy is developed, right? Unless it's pure erotica, right? But even then
it's very emotional.
Yeah, even then it's still emotionally intimate or vulnerable. And, I would question whether they've ever experienced emotional or vulnerability or intimacy in their relationships if they can't see it here in sexual encounters. I apologize.
Even in the darkest romance that I've read, even in the moments where you're just sort of like, what the fuck is happening? How am I reading it? You are having the raunchiest, craziest, borderline is it consent sex. The emotional intimacy is the core. It's because there is like this drive, obsession, this love. Yeah, people who don't get it might not have experienced that. So if you're one of those, let's all go to therapy. We haven't been sponsored by BetterHelp yet, so I can't help you guys.
Well, I hope that you're able to find that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's what matters.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a message from Tabitha. I want to start out with, I like Nesta by the end of Silver Flames. However, I think too many people excuse how abusive she is to the people around her because it's a trauma response. Like people phrase her past as being a little mean to Feyre, but when Feyre thought bad things about herself, it was in Nesta's voice. Nesta traumatized Feyre as much as them starving did. Also, another slight perspective change. Why are the Bat Boys seen as hypocritical when they had done the same kind of things to cope with trauma, and not that they had gone through the same thing? And no, it isn't helpful and in fact harmful. And finally, everyone gives the inner circle shit for being hostile, but I think it is well within their right to be hostile towards someone being hostile towards them since they first met. A lot of us would not be as sympathetic if Nesta talked to us like she talks to people in the books. Yeah, I think that one's hard. If you're at this point, then you will have heard us criticize the Bat Boys for their hypocrisy, for everybody's hypocrisy. But it's fair. And I think this is true for a lot of people who don't like a Nesta character because they have a Nesta character in their life. You don't have to give them the time of day, right? You don't have to give them your energy. Their healing is not your responsibility.
Yeah.
And I fully support that because I've been Nesta, but I've also been a person who's had a Nesta in their life. I think what's most important is the fact we understand we're choosing to go on this journey with Nesta by reading this book.
Yeah.
And inherently then we are being asked to develop empathy.
Yeah. What I like about this book is that this book doesn't expect anyone else to forgive her. And I think that's important because there's like that Marilyn Monroe phrase that people kind of fetishize. If you can't accept me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I don't know if that is Marilyn Monroe, but that's just something that people say. And I actually heavily disagree with that because like people's worsts are sometimes horrible and you shouldn't have to put up with it.
Yeah.
And she has burned every single bridge. Do I believe that the inner circle should have gone about it in such a different way and should have been there for her way sooner? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I think that they have every right to be done with her? Yeah, like she's burned those bridges. And what I appreciate about SJM is that this journey is truly about Nesta and not trying to get their forgiveness. It's about Nesta trying to forgive herself.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point, because at the end of the day, other people's opinions don't matter if you can't learn to live with yourself and the consequences of your actions and learn any form of self-love.
Yeah.
And this book really is about Nesta learning to accept who she is and what she's done.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to read from Madison. This is from last Friday and from yesterday. So Madison says, I wish I had the time to react to SJM's podcast. I don't think I've really heard her voice before. And the like thing, it's really giving Taylor Swift. I think it was great to hear her perspective on everything from fan theories to reception on pregnancy. Nesta Reese, I feel like the fandom has been way too critical at times. I love constructive criticism like the kind you two do, but sometimes it's just too damn much. Unfortunately, I've been in too many fandoms where things get so heated for literally no reason. I'm so over it. We got so fed in that interview. I've also told you about this listener's cancer diagnosis, and it's given her a different perspective on things. If her oncologist, this listener's cancer doctor in her case, told me about my diagnosis and had zero plans on how to help me, I would have lost it. I realize that's not exactly the same thing, but it's still a valid point to make. I think you two should do Assassin's Blade after Silver Flames. They didn't hear the other part. See where that leaves you. Maybe do HoSab or do book club. We already did HoSab. I'd rather you both do it before the SJM, next ACOTAR books. Sorry, I'm totally spamming your account, but this is disjointed listening at work. Maja 100% should have been the one to tell Farah going back to her own diagnosis. That's funny. Also, she's excited that we're back.
Yay!
And that she's a Taurus. I think we criticized Tauruses at one point.
Because I'm a Taurus, so you're criticizing me.
Teeny pause, big feelings, short break. So Amy's going to read Genevieve, and I don't mean to be blasting you, but the first sentence is, I haven't finished the whole episode yet. And I'm curious what it's going to say, because sometimes listeners do that and then they say something and they're either not mad, but they'll say something and then they come back like an hour later going, okay, so I just finished the episode and I see where you went with that. So we'll see what Genevieve says.
Genevieve says, full disclaimer, I haven't finished the episode yet, but a reaction to the Nesta sleeping around being fine idea. So this is in response to episode 1. All of the other indicators of what's happening in Nesta's life show her low self-worth, and we hate to see our girlies looking to find worth because a man is willing to sleep with them. I think that also anytime distraction of that nature is used to ignore bigger issues, it's problematic behavior for anyone, men included, simply because avoidance like that won't help anything. I guess really I'm saying if a friend of mine were displaying these behaviors, I'd be encouraging her to disengage from the rotation of men and booze and work on herself, which I totally respect. I think what we were trying to say was we're not shaming sex. We're shaming the way, to what Genevieve says. It's being any act used to avoid what you really need to face is a problem. It could be a good thing. You could clean your house incessantly. You could become like fixated on how your laundry is folded. If you're doing it to avoid something, that's where it becomes unhealthy.
I wonder if Genevieve got to the part of the episode where we also said that the combination of things is risky. Like if you're going out to sleep around and you're drunk, that's scary. You don't know if the guy's going to kill you. You don't know if he's going to do other things to you. That's like genuinely scary. You could be putting your life at risk behavior. It's the combo. But if someone was sober, not being a gambling addict, and I don't think Nesta's getting validation from men. I think she's using men to distract from the feelings. I'm not saying that it's fine, but it's the combo that makes it dangerous. Sex itself, I think, shouldn't be the thing that defines someone as being not okay. Like if you're thinking like, you know, my daddy doesn't love me and he chose another random Vasa girl over me, can I call you daddy while you know, fuck me and heal my issues? Yes, like that's dangerous. But I have issues with like purely demonizing sex. Like if alcohol was removed, gambling was removed, and you have just like sex. Again, I'm not saying that it's like the right thing. I just hate demonizing sex.
Right. And we're trying to also be conscious of the fact that we're finishing episode 6. You guys are listening to episode 1. Yeah. We don't want a repeat of the Rowan Punch situation where we belabor points.
Yeah. All we did was one point that we just.
No.
That's funny.
I don't remember how many times we've
Yeah, I
talked
know.
about
But
sex.
I just want you guys to know is that's how triggered we are. Is that you guys just sent Amy into a mini, like, we're not going to labor it. Promise. This was from Jaher from January 2nd. I'm sorry. Just listened to yesterday's episode, and I love any time Sailor Moon is brought up. I've never even noticed all the influence in SJM's writing from that Sailor Moon until you pointed it out. Fun fact, as a teenager, I drew a life-size Sailor Moon on my bedroom wall. Ooh.
Oh.
My dad still talks about how much of a pain in the ass it was to paint over. The street I lived on growing up never had cable, but I used to babysit my cousin who did have cable, and that was where my love for the anime started. I could watch Sailor Moon as soon as my cousin went to bed. I just saw the bookstore has the book sets of the manga, and I'm definitely going to be reading them. Girl, I love Sailor Moon. I fucking love Sailor Moon. So that is us trying to read through everyone's DMs. I'm going through some DMs. People were excited about the idea of us interviewing Pierce Brown. I will say we're not guaranteed to interview him. So we're going to read one last one because we're just going through DMs and trying to clear things up. And then we're going to be done. So this is going to be a couple of different things going in. But yeah, Jac and Amy, the level of simmering rage I feel about listening to the Mothers episode. First of all, great conversations and interesting interpretations. Thank you. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, go to the SSJ episode, the Substack Society Journal episode, where we talk about the mother curse. The reason for my bubbling anger is that I realize the reason that motherhood has become known as this experience where women lose themselves isn't because of motherhood, it's because of the men and the system and society they designed. If systems and societal expectations gave motherhood the respect it deserves, women would not be forced to keep a baby alive and do it all as well. It would be given the space and support it rightfully deserved for the mother to do what she feels is important, raising the baby, building her connection, and then whatever else is most important to her, work, hobbies, etc. The more supported mothers are, the less they should feel so depleted and like they can only choose one thing to be their main priority, which would obviously build resentment over feelings. For this sake of the message, I'm writing in very simplistic terms in the heterotypical family dynamic, but obviously other families and genders are also valid and might have different experiences. But it made me so mad because it feels like, to me, that men have figured out to weaponize motherhood to the detriment of women and tell us that our only purpose, and then also not respect people who are mothers. I think SJM with Farrah, this is actually like very topical. It works out. But SJM saying like just because Farrah's having a baby doesn't mean her story's over is so
poignant.
Tense. Yeah.
Yeah. This is from a couple weeks later. At the risk of you never wanting to open my messages ever again after the last slot, I watched the SJM Call Her Daddy podcast and found her response to the question why the women lost their powers interesting. I was wondering if you both might consider covering it from a literary perspective, focusing on the hero's journey and whether the hero must sacrifice for the journey to be complete, and maybe we could compare. Aelin and Nesta giving up their power to other sacrifices from heroes that we have seen in other literature. It is clear SJM loves epic fantasy like Lord of the Rings, so I'm wondering if there are parallels, but often in these kinds of tales, the hero goes to live in comfort / semi-obscurity after they have saved the world. So I did see a loose similarity in Nesta and Aelin giving up some power so they can be left in peace, because having that much power would always drag them into things if they kept it, whether they wanted it or not. I also thought it was an interesting take because in the patriarchal lens, we see the loss of power as a disservice and a loss, but I wonder if we try to dismantle that conditioning, whether we place too much value on the magic, but the world sets this up as being high value in itself, so that is somewhat contradictory. Okay, so this conversation has sparked a thought in me. We, as women in a patriarchal society, view magic as a tool by which we can become respected or equal or greater than the society that puts us down. Therefore, we resent women in fiction losing their magic because it's disempowering for us. Would we feel the same if we were in a matriarchal society? Is magical power in fantasy what we view as the antidote to patriarchy?
I will also say something that I hope works in tandem. is the term magic that we have in more modern fantasy. I'm not going circle like, magic witches and stuff. I'm talking about like, starting from like Tolkien into Harry Potter into now. Is magic in the concept of fantasy so protected by men because that's the only way that men get to create and give birth to? They don't get to create anything. This is their version of being able to, let's just give life. I mean, even if they're not giving life, they're able to create things. They're able to create shadows. They're able to create magic. Gandalf is able to wave his little thingy, staff or whatever. And magic is a form of creation. And it's been so safeguarded by men. And the concept of fantasy and magic is so around the idea of that, which is why we're like, I think men are threatened by this like romantasy genre. But keeping that in mind, if magic is a metaphorical thing of creation of life, Nesta giving up her power, which we argued earlier was never her power to begin with, is not a threat because she still has the ability of the quote unquote heteronormative guys' ability to create life. And is still mother blessed. The term of mother goddess is usually the concept of giving birth and life.
Yeah. Going off of what you're saying, we are deciding as a fandom that the magic the mother leaves with Nesta is inferior to the magic that Nesta stole from the cauldron. And would that remain the case if it was not the mother who gave her the magic, if it was some other...
Like the father
if it was a male entity? I wonder if we're conditioned to resent anything that looks like a loss to women because women lose out on a lot in life. I get it.
And it's valid to read this to be pissed off and be like, why the fuck can't she keep her power?
But unlike some people that we've talked to, I was okay with SJM's answer because women are still fucking badass. And if we don't think of Nesta as badass, guaranteeing that she'll be able to have a baby with wings with Cassian, knowing that she's mother blessed, knowing that she's made a sacrifice for the greater good. If we're not okay with that, then I think we need to re-examine
why.
Yeah,
I think it's something that I have been coming to terms with of like Nesta not having her powers and Aelin. And, on a high level, I wish they could have had powers, but on a let's get into it and dive more into it. Well, Nesta still has powers. We just don't know what they are.
Right.
Like you said, they're from the mother. So why am I deeming them inferior just because they're not from this mysterious masculine evil cauldron? Yeah. That is, even though the cauldron has not been representative of masculine or feminine, but because it was controlled by the Hybern King, I think we ourselves put masculine energy to it. Yeah.
And I've said this before, Aelin never wanted her magic.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, Nesta doesn't want her magic either. She took it out of desperation to protect herself and her sister.
She doesn't want to tap into it. She doesn't want to use it to scry. She doesn't want anything to do with it.
So why can't we be grateful that the women ultimately got what they wanted?
And if magic is a larger societal metaphor for the one avenue that men are capable of creation, and women can be still strong and do not need that metaphorical power of the ability to create, and women don't need that. We're capable of everything else. Would love to still them to have powers. You don't know. And that's the other thing is we don't know what she has. We don't know if she's completely powerless.
Right. And it's not like Feyre gave up her magic. Feyre is still very powerful. She has the power of all 7 High Lords. So
also, Aelin has her power, right?
She sacrifices her fire, the Mala Firebringer power, but she maintains the drop of water magic that she has in her.
Aelin, sorry. I meant Elaine.
Yeah, I mean, Elaine whatever Elaine has, I would imagine she still has.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Reserve the right to change our mind, but we love saying things that make you guys think, because it makes us think.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up.
All right. Thank you for listening to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. Join us next week as we dive into chapters 38 through 42 of Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Silver Flames.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate and review and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps other readers find us. And of course, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's episode. Share your comments through our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com, and we might feature your feedback in a future mini episode or in a Patreon exclusive episode.
For merch and more ways to support the show, head to booktalkforbooktalk.com. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at the handle BookTalkForBookTalk. And don't forget to join us as we keep the analysis going by subscribing to our Substack to get more insights into the romantasy and romance genres. Head to thesubtextsocietyjournal.substack.com. Bye.
Struggling to find the right metabolic wellness support, even when you're doing everything right, has been one of the most frustrating things for me in my health journey.
I've tried other metabolic wellness support providers, and I often feel rejected rather than supported by the process.
That's because Brello is focused on long-term health, longevity, and performance, not quick fixes.
Brello is designed for people who want a more sustainable approach to their metabolic wellness support. Their support helps you focus on habits, education, and structure alongside provider oversight.
Getting my GLP-1 through Brello has been so easy. They make it so effortless, and they provide all the support I need through their app.
Their app is one of a kind in my book because it allows you to track progress, manage reminders, and stay on top of renewals. And if you're like me, managing the renewals is the hardest part.
Everything is managed online, making it easier to stay consistent over time, and medications are delivered to your door. They're so transparent with their pricing with one flat monthly cost. Go to BrelloHealth.com to see if you qualify and explore their GLP-1 plans, starting at $133 per month for your first 3 months, plus access to their app, community, and wellness classes. That's BRELLO health.com.
Any information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional medical consultation, diagnosis, or treatment. All patients must consult with a healthcare provider prior to the prescription or dispensing of any medication, which will be done only pursuant to a valid prescription. Compounded drug products are not FDA approved, and the FDA does not evaluate their safety, effectiveness, or quality. Patients are encouraged to discuss the risks, benefits, and appropriateness of any medications, including compounded products, with their healthcare provider before use.